Hello, know me, man? Do you know me or you know Lil Tecca? Who do you know?
Music, due to his second album performing very poorly, being framed as a one-hit wonder by his own fans, to just a couple years down the line, completely reviving his career and back to dropping Billboard topping hits, now being seen as one of the most consistent and underrated artists in recent times. So here is why everyone loves Lil Tecca. So let's bring it back to 2019 for a second, where Tecca was just 16 years old. Yet that didn't stop him from dropping one of the biggest hits of that year, Ransom. And I don't think I need to explain too much about this song, it would simply go on to become a viral smash hit, originally debuting on the 93rd position on the Billboard 100 and would eventually peak at the number 4 position, a couple of weeks after gaining more momentum. And we can't talk about Ransom without of course mentioning the iconic Lyrical Lemonade music video that was released alongside it. I mean, at the time, this was absolutely absurd. This random kid just got a top 5 Billboard entry whilst being completely independent. Now, as an artist, it's good to get your first breakthrough hit, however, it's as important to continue putting out hits.
Yeah, that's also the problem with the modern day music market, fam. You put something out, then the next day the kids are like, no, we want more music. Bro, we're not machines. People are not machines. Take a look at the Party Next Door and Drake project. A massive collaborative project between two major artists, Drake and Party Next Door. The thing lasted 3 months, youth. Came out in February, right? By April, it was done. It was finished. No one was talking about it anymore. What is that? Something that usually a release of an album would last you. You could do an album press like a cycle for an album back in the day for like 3 years. You're touring still off that one project. The new Tang lasted 3 months, youth. Just to go to show you that the idea of putting out records all the time not only burns out the artist, but then it allows the label to cycle and recycle artists coming in through the door like this. Like it's candy. Oh, you're done. You're not putting out a new hit. No problem. We'll sign somebody else that probably looks like you, makes the same similar type of music than you, and has a little bit of buzz going on, and we'll pump them through the system, use them up, and then whoop, chuck them off to the side.
So you didn't become a one-hit wonder, which Lil Tecca would actually accomplish with his debut project We Love You Tecca, released on the 30th of August in that year, just 4 days after his 17th birthday. This project would include more hit songs, such as Shots, Did It Again, Amigo, Love Me, and even the Juice WRLD remix of Ransom. Honestly, the whole album is full of hits, as even just going through it now, some of my favourite songs are some of the least streamed ones, Side Note and Bossa Nova, straight bangers. The project would debut at the 4th spot on the Billboard 200 albums chart and sell an impressive 70,000 units in its first week. Outstanding debut numbers. Now, even with the project being liked and performing well, Tecca faced some criticism early on. Tecca won't be the artist you go for deep music or songs with insane production, and he seems to know his niche, making background trap music. At 17, he still has insane potential as an artist. Listening so far, there's no songs which make me go insane, but they do serve as decent songs to save to the playlist / background stuff, which at first, some of you may see as an insult to his music, calling it background music and in general not having much meaning. But really, this is probably one of Tecca's best attributes in keeping his career alive for the long term. If you have the perfect formula, why would you switch it up? So then let's move into 2019, a year and 1 month after the release of his debut album. Tecca would drop Virgo World, 19 songs with features from the likes of Polo G, Lil Durk, Lil Uzi Vert and Nav. Well, unfortunately for him, this is where things got a little bit sour. The album wasn't perceived well, selling a poor 35,000 units in its first week and they.
Why is the rap industry always so focused on first week sales and stuff? I don't get it. No other industry or other market is concerned about first week sales. That's how you can tell that the whole entire industry rap is so egotistic. No one cares about first. Why are we still talking about like numbers? Oh, they sold this many albums. We don't even. When's the last time you went to A&B Sound or Best Buy and bought an album?
Debuting at the number 10 spot, basically selling half of his debut project, with Tecca himself on Twitter being quite overwhelmed by the hate. I hope I inspired some of the kids that were just like me with this project. That's all I wanted. If I disappointed you, I'm sorry. Thanks for supporting me even if I let you down, with him later on even suggesting he's going to retire. I love y'all, but this won't be continuing as long as y'all thought. There's like 30 other rappers that sound just like me, you'll be good. It seemed like the pressure of being a rap superstar at 18 was getting to Tecca, but why? Well, firstly, fans are upset with the version of Dolly with Lil Uzi Vert that was released, as as it was supposedly not as good as the leaked 2018 version, leaving them disappointed that after a long 2-year wait, they didn't get what they wanted. Bruh, we waited years for Dolly to come out and it's completely changed. They really ruined Uzi's best song. And overall, that album just didn't contain the same hits his debut project did. It still had 2 big songs with Our Time and Out of Love, however, the majority of the songs didn't even break 8 million streams. And from what I can find, most people just didn't find any of the songs to be memorable. They didn't have that same catchy feel like the songs on We Love You Tecca did. Overall, a mediocre album, and compared to his previous drop, a disappointment. It was unfortunate. It must be tough as an 18-year-old to have the pressure of basically dropping another Ransom, or dropping another album with the same amount of hits as We Love You Tecca. But that's the harsh reality of blowing up as an artist. One day people love you, and then next they're trying to tear you down. But even though it seemed like the pressure was getting to Tecca, the following year would get off to a better start. He would drop multiple successful singles, Jet Ski with Lil Mosey, Never Left, Show Me Up, and Repeat It. He would also drop his 3rd album, We Love You Tecca 2, with it really doing the same numbers as Virgo World, or actually slightly worse, selling 30,000 units in its first week and debuting at number 10. Again, not atrocious, but not the same heights he had with his debut album. Now,
I can't stress this enough how this always happens in the music industry. Look at someone like 50 Cent when he first came out with his debut album. That sold millions. I believe that was over 26 million copies sold. Don't quote me on that. But every consecutive album after that sold less and less and less and less. The idea that you're going to keep up the same numbers as a popping artist as you are when you're maybe 5 years in is ludicrous. The attention is not there anymore. The idea of who is this person is gone because now people know who you are. So you're going to have to resort to doing antics and doing things that are not related to music. Look at someone like 6ix9ine. So that's what it goes to show you that sometimes this idea of staying the top artist isn't always what it's cut out to be, because what are you going to do next to achieve the same success you had the first time? Is it going to be music related or is it going to be buffoonery?
Personally, from what I remember back around this time, my thought of Tecca was, like, he isn't an artist where I would go play his albums from start to finish, like someone such as, for example, Juice WRLD. I'm trying to think of artists from that era Tecca came from. However, I knew I can rely on Tecca to drop multiple fire songs, like singles, a year, with it basically seeming like Tecca was becoming more of a singles artist slash hitmaker than an album kind of artist, which honestly can be a tough decision to make as an artist. Do you be like Tecca and stick with your sound as you know it works, but at the same time people may get bored and the sound may become stale? Or do you experiment, switch up your sound so you can make a full-fledged album with a range of sounds? Something like what Ye did, where he completely shifted from the rage sound to that, I don't know, industrial 2093 kind of sound, where you're taking a risk but you may also discover a new audience. I feel like these two guys on Reddit kind of displayed this perfectly. Did not change his flow at all since the last album. Don't fix what's not broken. It's just that it gets repetitive and the replay value is lower since a lot of songs sound similar. So yeah, he is making similar music year after year, but if it's working, why change it? However, at the same time, if you're listening to his 20-track album, it can get boring. Now, after We Love You Tecca 2, he would actually take a year break, presumably because album's performance-wise, he was at a decline, so he probably wanted to take a step back and develop something new, which would end up working extremely well for him. So just under 2 years since We Love You Tecca 2, in the July of 2023, he would come back with a bang, dropping the single £500. The song would blow up, debuting at the number 60 position.
£500 is a banger. That is a banger record. See, this is what y'all need to learn from young Tecca here, is the idea of contrast, okay? Contrast. You go for a little bit to get the idea off of, oh, where's Lil Tecca? Where did Lil Tecca go? And then you come back with a smash. So that it gets you off of the idea of always trying to be in the limelight all the time. You got to take a break. Come back. Contrast. That's how even things work in the idea of consciousness and universe. But let's not get a little bit too ahead of ourselves, okay?
On the Billboard Hot 100 and peaking at the 51st position sometime later. At this point in time, it had probably been 2 or 3 years since Tecca got a top 50 Billboard entry, but it seemed like the wait was worth it, especially after his year break. Tecca took some time away to adjust his approach to music, with £500 acting as one of the lead singles to his album Tech, which would drop in the following months, selling 41,000 units in its first week and debuting at the number 11 position. Overall, very solid numbers, especially in 2023, as over the years with streaming, it's become harder and harder to sell higher numbers, with the album containing some pretty big songs, Heaven on Earth with Kodak Black, Fell in Love with Karen Carson, and Down With Me, with Tecca overall leaving great impressions after his break, dropping a very solid album whilst experimenting with some new production. And what I think everyone loved about this album was the fact it was really the same Tecca we have heard before, but also slightly different, in a good way. He switched it up, but not too much. If anything, sounding way better with this new polished sound. And he pretty much had to do this. The SoundCloud scene he was once part of was completely dead, meaning that whole sound he came up with was dead. And we were heading into this new underground kind of scene with Opium, Yee, and xCephasx, which I think Tecca.
I was gonna say that about xCephasx, man. xCephasx was supposed to be up next, and he got completely demolished. I don't know what y'all did to this youngin. I don't know who was guiding him, but he had such a trajectory, yo. And y'all misguided that youngin to complete oblivion, dude. Y'all Sesame Street that youngin to the trash can, though, and that's disrespectful.
Adapted to perfectly, he's incorporating his older 2019 sound with this more modern sound, because on Tech there was production from Benny X, Cliff Shane, AM, and Thank You Will. As if we compare him to someone like Trippie Redd, whose sound is still that same kind of pop love sound since like 2018, it's a bit stale. And not only is Tecca evolving his style with new producers, he's tapping in with the new artists. He of course had Ken Carson on his project, and has many other SoundCloud songs with him too, even one with Destroy Lonely. He produced xCephasx's biggest hit, Knock Knock, and also has some songs with him. Kid Laroi, Richard Mary, you get the point. I also think this is very important to do as an artist. Stay tapped in with a new generation, as it allows you to stay up to date with that style and sound. In 2024, Tecca would have a bit of a quiet year, not really dropping many singles as he usually would, with him dropping Plan A in the September of that year, doing pretty much the exact same numbers as his last project, and receiving solid reviews. As usual, pretty decent and consistent, and funny enough, he would actually drop on the same day as Future, with a lot of people saying Tecca outdid him. Now I'm gonna be honest, this project wasn't anything crazy, and if anything, I just kinda want to skip over it and get to the juicy part of Lil Tecca's comeback heading into 2025. But before we do, I want to show you this. In an interview with Amazon Music, Tecca would reveal he made 500 songs for Plan A, really showing us how dedicated Tecca is to his music, which again, I just think shows us why he's managed to keep relevant over such a long time.
Approach it too differently. I kind of just sharpen the skills that I know kind of work for me. Just trusting my intuition when it comes to like beat selection, like melodies, and at the end, like we make 400 songs and we just try to.
You made how many songs?
400 for this album cycle.
And this was across, this was album, it took a year?
Yeah, this is since I finished Tech. So out of those, we just try to pick the best songs.
How many songs is that a day on average?
Honestly, I don't know.
Is that like
a little bit more than one a day?
Yeah, it's like one and a quarter,
yeah,
like
something like that. But there's some days where I might record 5 songs, there's some days I might not record, and then the next day I record 6 songs, so
on the 14th of March, which many of you will remember as the day Carti dropped the longer-awaited, extremely anticipated music album, pretty much completely breaking the internet for a couple of days prior to the release. But you know who else was dropping on that Friday? Lil Tecca. He had a single titled Dark Thoughts. So with this dropping the same night as music, most people's attention was on the album, but somehow this single would absolutely pop off. The song would debut at the number 45 position on the Billboard Hot 100, eventually
that one got swept under the rug. There's who's gonna have any sort of press run when you're dropping alongside Playboi Carti's music project. And you know, Playboi Carti is also a funny character for that, because that music project is called Music, because now anything that you type in related to music is going to be Playboi Carti. It's actually a really good SEO marketing move. You know what I mean?
climbing to the 32nd position and surpassing Carti's Evil Jordan and Rather Light in streams, with it supposedly being on track to be his biggest song since Ransom. Now obviously the whole music comparison is a bit skewed, as Tecca dropped 1 song versus Carti who dropped 30, but I still think it's impressive that even though he dropped on the same night as such a big album, the song still managed to get shine and momentum. Now this is obviously a huge moment for Tecca, as having such a big single means he will have way more people paying attention to him, and with him dropping his album Dopamine this Friday, this could potentially be his highest selling album since the original We Love You Tecca back in 2019. Fans on Reddit even started comparing the interaction of likes album announcement posts with Dopamine and Plan A had, with the Dopamine posts having 5x the amount of likes, showing that there's way more anticipation for it. So what, Plan A sold 40k? I mean damn, Dopamine may sell upwards of like 60. Realistically, I think a solid amount would be 50. It sounds about right. Maybe if he has some cool features, he could push 60. I think he's having like Ken Carson on there. I'm not sure who else he could have. Maybe like Don Toliver. And actually, he dropped another single 2 weeks ago, Owa Owa, which had a lot of hype itself, especially as it's the first song released after Dark Thoughts. There was a lot of anticipation for that. So I'm recording this after the album dropped. I'm recording this new section on Saturday night, a whole day after release. And numbers wise, the Dopamine is doing great, but I am seeing some seriously mixed reviews online. Lil Tecca earns the biggest album debut of his career on Spotify with Dopamine, meaning this album outstreams all his other projects on the first day, which is kind of crazy. Could he sell more than We Love You Tecca all the way back back in 2019, that would be kind of crazy. Like, he outstreamed Lil Wayne on the first day with Carter 6.
Wasn't hard to outstream Lil Wayne, especially with that garbage album he released. Oh my goodness, you guys! But I think the problem with a lot of y'all people nowadays is like, you're asking too much. You're asking too much from all these artists, man. You're completely being so hypercritical about every single thing that they're doing, and you're comparing every single consecutive release with the previous. Like, let the man cook. Let the man cook. This is why you have people like Bob Dylan who are consistently releasing projects that were different every single time. He wasn't concerned about what the last one did or what the one did before that. Is that every single project that he would put out, he essentially would have to create he had to garner an entire new fan base because the fans of the previous one weren't rocking with whatever he was putting out. So every single project was like, oh man, like the thing with 808s and Heartbreak and Yeezus. Those projects, people were not feeling it at all. But now, if you ask any Kanye fan, they're telling you that's one of their favorite projects. So, hey, I'm just here to report the news. I'm just here to report the facts. All right.